one question that you may be asking is, if I increase my protein consumption, is that going to make me gain more adipose tissue? Am I going to gain more fat mass as a result of that? And the answer may surprise you, because the answer is actually no. In the early 2000s, there was a multi-pronged study evaluating the effects of two different diets, one that is higher in carbohydrate and then one that was higher in protein. And the differences between these two diets were only protein versus carbohydrate, and they weren't the amount of overall calories that these people were taking in. And at the end of this study, I believe it was about 10 weeks long, what they found was that the people that increased their protein consumption, so the percentage of their calories that came from protein, actually had more lean mass and had slightly higher rates of weight loss. So they retained more of their lean mass, hopefully from muscle if they're exercising, and they had higher overall losses in weight. So during the rehabilitation period, it is okay to increase our protein intake because our activity levels will also be down. One of the other bonuses that happened in the protein group was they actually had increased levels of satiety. Satiety is basically just a fancy term for saying they were less hungry throughout the day. They had less need to snack throughout the day. So they could stick with 3 or 4 meals throughout the day, as opposed to snacking throughout the entirety of the day in order to feel hungry and feel less hungry and satisfied. So increasing our protein consumption is not going to have a significant effect on our laying on of adipose tissue stores or fat stores, and it'll actually make us feel less hungry throughout the day, and hopefully it's something that will maximize our muscle protein synthesis during the recovery period. One common question that often comes up in the nutritional circles is, can I be a vegetarian and still maximize my protein synthesis? And the answer is, of course, yes. So when you're a vegetarian, there are a lot of different reasons that people can be vegetarian, either for ethical reasons or for the environment, etc. Really, you just have to be a little bit more food savvy, and you have to be on the higher end of protein intake relative to someone who is omnivorous or eats meat. And really, there's one signaling amino acid that's really important to focus on in order to maximize muscle protein synthesis rates. And that amino acid is the amino acid leucine. So there have been comparative trials looking at matched protein across an omnivorous group, one that eats meat, versus a purely vegetarian or vegan group. And in some of those studies, they found that the vegans and vegetarians had lower rates of muscle protein synthesis. But when you take a deeper dive and you look at the studies that specifically look at the amino acid leucine, and you look at the people that standardize leucine consumption across the two groups, the muscle protein synthesis rates are the same. So you just have to be a little bit more protein savvy. One of the reasons you have to be more protein savvy is because traditional plant sources of protein, beans and rice, tofu, soy, wheat protein, pea protein, all of these are traditionally a little bit lower in proportion in branching amino acids, specifically leucine, the one that signals muscle protein synthesis to occur in humans. So what you've got to do is just increase your protein intake just a little bit. So this is already going to be tough because protein sources from vegetarian foods are a little bit lower. So supplementation might be really beneficial. So doing a vegan protein shake can be really helpful in upping the amount of overall protein, which is also going to up the amount of leucine and those specific essential amino acids. And if we have the right amount of those specific amino acids, namely leucine, and we're on the higher end of the protein intake spectrum, then our muscle protein synthesis rates will be the same as if we eat meat. So the answer is yes, you can be vegetarian and still have adequate and even optimal muscle protein synthesis rates. It's just important to be on the higher end of that protein intake spectrum.